Pure intelligence. The purpose of living with all its ups and downs is for you to discover the pure intelligence you are. The process is long and often difficult with many misleading twists, turns, and false assumptions, and there's no guarantee of ultimate success. But the more you are conscious in your living life and relationships, conscious of what inevitably spoils them, sours them, or deadens the initial vibrant interaction, the more intelligent you become. You are then reclaiming some of the intelligence and vitality that your emotional self steals from you to sustain itself. Frequently during the process, you'll feel you are dying. But it is not you or your body dying. It is your bothersome self. Since everybody clings habitually to being their self, they mistakenly presume their self is what they are. The dissolution of the self is then taken personally, and what's left of your self suffers. The symptoms of such suffering are desolation, being forsaken, wretchedness, a sense of unworthiness, deep loneliness in the midst of people and loved ones, sadness, hopelessness, and aching despair. Nonetheless, behind it all, and directing everything for eventual good, is the pure intelligence you are. But I repeat, it is not what you are that is suffering. It is not you who is being demolished, but it certainly feels like it. Pure intelligence is the natural intelligence of the body. It is the intelligence behind the eyes looking at these words. Sight feels nothing. Sight just sees. Hearing doesn't feel. Hearing just hears. And so it is with all the body's senses. No one can say what this intelligence is. It's simply there. And it never moves. Myself calls itself I all day long. It says, I love you, when it doesn't. I am happy, when it's unhappy, and I am honest, or I am sincere, when it is not. And yet there are other times when you say, I love you, etc., and really mean it. Which I are we talking about? Then there is I who love my father, but when he is cruel to my mother, I still love him but I don't like him. Which I is real? Then there's I who love my children and I who put my own interests before them. I who like many things but I who dislike many other things. How many I's are there in the body? And which is real? None of those is real. Everyone is simply an aspect of yourself. Each I rises and declares itself according to the dominant emotion or vested interest at the time, or the words are uttered habitually or robotically like a machine. How are you today? Is there any real I in the body? Yes, several, in descending order. But they are not accessible to the mind, which is an instrument of self. Each real I is at a different level of the pure psyche. Each is a finer rendition of the one before, until finally all vanish into the one and only supreme. Confusion from the East. Some confusion regarding yourself is also likely if you've been exposed to Eastern teachings. Eastern teachings refer to a higher self with a capital S, and sometimes to a lower self with a small s, which can only be communicated in the written word. More recent versions of Eastern-based teachings also refer to the self as ego. This is another red herring introduced by the self so that people won't take immediate responsibility for their troublesome self. There's no more upfront and meaningful word in your experience than myself once you admit to the menace it is. As for your higher self, no one can describe that or tell you about it, other than to say that once your troublesome self finally surrenders, I, the consciousness of God, am there immediately and unmistakably. Then I disappear. I enable you to know I am the knower of everything in your memory and experience. Without my reflection, you can't know anything. When you're asked a question, I reflect instantaneously on the particular object or subject and come up with an answer. The reflection is so quick and natural that no one notices the split second it takes, except where I need to ponder and ask for time to think about it. Although I'm the only knower, I'm not the intelligence I seem to have. My intelligence is only a reflection of the pure intelligence in my body, and a reflection like your reflection in the bathroom mirror is not the real thing. As I am the closest thing in existence to intelligence in the body, everyone calls themselves I. There are two things I reflect on in everybody: first, what the senses report, and second, myself, which is the sum total of my feelings, accumulated and preserved since the body was born. Everybody's knowing life begins with their feelings, and that's where I, the knower, begin. As my feelings become stronger, and my experience of the senses widens, I reflect on both as myself. Since I am the means of all knowing, I then assume that myself and my memorable experiences are real. But they are not real. I am the most real thing in existence as long as I am free of all identification. I am the thinker, the reasoner, the rationalizer and the interpreter of events. If I were not, nothing in particular would make sense. The whole of human existence depends on I. The spiritual life begins when I start to realize that my emotional feelings and opinions are no longer as meaningful as they used to be. As they are reduced, I sink deeper within and become more intelligent. At the same time, I sense there's something more real within that I can't name. The camera effect. The process is something like a camera. The senses are the lens, the receptors of the environment. The intelligence behind the lens and the camera is unmoving. And nothing happens unless there's film in the camera. Myself is supposed to be the film. Like a good film, it's supposed to record only the images that come through the lens. It's not supposed to distort the images with its own conclusions. That would be a very unreliable film. You'd never get the picture you focused on. You'd seldom see things as they are. That's just what's happened. I as myself staffed interpreting the pictures, giving them a selfish bias. This is equivalent to the ludicrous situation of the film taking over the camera and cutting out the intelligence behind the camera. Result: confused and sometimes chaotic images. My original and legitimate job is to watch through the lens of the senses for any happening or situation that might endanger the survival or well-being of the physical body. I judge events against previous experience with what I call my mind. If the result is all clear, I relax the body after having got it tensed ready for action. If the result is threatening, I initiate immediate evasive action by the body. That would be all very well if I remained the reflection of the body's pure intelligence. But I've identified myself with my feelings. My feelings are personal and permeate my memory, putting a personal slant on what would otherwise be a simple act of perception of facts. Even so, the body's pure intelligence is completely beyond my comprehension, but not beyond my power of observation. Its speed is amazing. By comparison, my mind is laboriously slow. My body touches a hot stove or a piece of dry ice, and the hand is withdrawn immediately, while my mind is still trying to work out whether the object was freezing or hot. Pure intelligence is instinctual, that incredible immediate response which protects and guides all living creatures and organic life. It is divine, cosmic,